Hi.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, everybody. First off, first things first. Yesterday, the live that we did, we had some issues with sound. So when we watched the playback, and someone had very kindly commented for it to tell us that the sound was really bad yesterday. So if you're watching us live today, maybe you could just comment and let us know if the sound's okay. We have got a backup microphone that we can plug in. So if the sound's terrible, please let us know, because we want you to be able to hear what we're saying.
Yeah, and so please, if someone could just pop in the comments or give us a thumbs up, that would be really great.
It would.
So welcome to day 2 of Neurodiversity Celebration Week, and we're coming on every day this week at 2 o'clock onto LinkedIn to talk about different areas of neurodiversity. But our main focus is with the lens of the impact of neurodiversity on well-being. Yay!
Thank
that
you,
is
Georgia.
fantastic. Thank you.
So
guys.
sorry about yesterday. I honestly don't know what happened.
No.
We'd done loads of events in the morning and it had been fine. It was just that one thing that didn't work, and I feel terrible about it. So sorry if you tuned in yesterday and the sound was terrible. So anyway, I'll let Vanessa continue.
Anyway, so thank you so much for letting us know.
Yeah.
So today we're going to look at what's that hidden impact of being neurodiverse. And this is a subject that we're really passionate about. Just in case you weren't here yesterday, who are we? So we're Remarkable Minds, and we are dedicated neurodiversity specialists. And we're committed to fostering well-being for neurodiverse individuals. And we really feel that this is a crucial focus that's often overlooked in kind of more conventional approaches or in those practical solutions that are sometimes offered.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because quite a narrow view of neurodiversity is taken, often the accommodations and the support that's offered focuses on the obvious challenges, things like the reading and the writing, sometimes the need to fidget or a need for a quiet space. Those things are all really important, but actually the well-being of the neurodiverse individual is often not really taken into consideration with those accommodations that are offered.
Yeah. So yesterday we looked at why adults hide their neurodiversity. And we talked about the impact of having to hide the fact that you think and process the world differently. And it's actually, it's a massive impact. And especially if you're not even aware you're neurodiverse, which many adults out there may not be aware. And what we wanted to touch on today is that, there are many females out there who are getting late diagnosed with ADD, or in fact, there are many girls being diagnosed with ADD. And traditionally, this was always thought of as a kind of boys thing.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
It was absolutely. I mean, specifically ADHD, I think we often have that image of an ADHD child, particularly being a boy who's naughty, who isn't concentrating in class, and that just isn't the case. In fact, actually, there are just as many women as men, girls as boys, who are neurodiverse or ADD. The diagnosis is evenly split. But the thing is that girls and women are much better at hiding it. So, as we talked about yesterday, that hiding in plain sight, women and girls are very good at social mimicry, at copying the people around them, at following their peers. So these things don't get picked up as much, and that's not a great thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's interesting because neurodiversity really is a hidden difference. Can you tell from looking at us who's neurodiverse or who has dyslexia and ADD and who doesn't? No, you can't. Now, what I can tell you is the inventions of pockets in women's dresses is fantastic, because when I'm presenting and I get excited, I tend to wave my hands around a lot. So, the fact that I can put my hands in pockets is great.
Yeah, absolutely it is. But we wanted to just talk a little bit about assumptions as well, assumptions around people's behaviour. So, we know that women present as not appearing neurodiverse, and that can create assumptions about their abilities, assumptions about their way that they should interact with the world, and that can be very difficult to take on those assumptions. I saw an amazing video that's doing the rounds on social media at the moment about assumptions, about making assumptions about what someone can do and what they can't do based on their appearance. And I think that is something that we really do have to take into account, because, we're all different and we all have our own talents and challenges in life, no matter what, no matter who we are. But if we're always making assumptions about someone based on what they look like, that can be really inaccurate, actually, the assumption that you make about someone. And we were just doing a webinar just now. We're talking about Vanessa and how she used to behave, what her behaviours used to be like. And I was saying that, I used to feel quite jealous of Vanessa's life, because she was always busy. She had friends. She was out socialising. She was enjoying herself, and it looked like she had an amazing life from the outside. But actually, on the inside, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, no, I was very stressed and overwhelmed, and in full ADD chaos, really. And I think, the other thing I would say is not just assuming from how someone looks, but assuming based on the label as well. So,
yes, it goes both ways, doesn't it?
It goes both ways.
Absolutely.
So even if someone does have a diagnosis, it's actually not assuming that they're going to struggle with certain challenges just because they're dyslexic or ADD,
Absolutely.
So most of the information that's out in the world does predominantly focus on the challenges, and a lot of our diagnosis is a deficit-based model, and many of the solutions that are out there to support neurodiverse people kind of focus on those negatives, really, don't they? On those negative deficits that people have.
But also on what's going on the outside.
Yeah.
That's what we find, is that those accommodations, whilst great in the workplace, focus on the external challenges. What they don't focus on is the internal challenges. And that's a little bit that we're sort of wanting to touch on today, is those more hidden inner turmoil issues that people with neurodiversity have. And you can't see that from the outside.
No.
If people, there's so much to say about assumptions. I've just got so much going through my mind about, we're just talking about how neurodiverse people can appear to overreact or to be overly sensitive. And when that happens, other people make an assumption about you. They make an assumption about who you are, or they're overly sensitive, or they overreact to everything. And, how does that make you feel if you're just dismissed as the person that overreacts all the time, or the person that's overly sensitive? I hate that overly anything. I'm just like, I remember doing a TikTok post about that. You're not over anything. You just you know, and that's perfectly okay to just be you as you are. So we just need to stop making those assumptions about people and what's going on for them based on those behaviours.
And I think it's really interesting because, if I go back to the performance reviews that I used to have, there was always a positive, and then it was but. And I would get I was really overly sensitive to those comments and criticisms. But what I didn't realize is it's because I was neurodiverse, it had really affected my self-confidence. So although outwardly I appeared confident by being social and, keeping busy, really it was that internal lack of self-confidence that was one of the hardest things to deal with, actually. And that was the hidden impact. And, we coach so many adults and teenagers in our group coaching and our one-to-one coaching. And every single person we've worked with at some point has to deal with that. Gosh, I just don't have self-confidence. It just doesn't exist within me.
Absolutely. And that has massive consequences, doesn't it? That lack of self-confidence. It means that you sort of don't put yourself forward for jobs. You don't ask somebody out that you might be wanting to ask out. And you just sometimes can just end up feeling stuck in a place where you know that you can go further in your job. You know that you've got more potential than that, but you just don't feel confident putting yourself forward. And not only that, it can mean that in the workplace you hold yourself back in so many ways. So it can mean that you don't even avail yourself of the accommodations that are open to you in the workplace. This is why we always talk about allowing accommodations to be available for everyone, because if you've had that negative experience, putting your hand up and saying, I'm neurodiverse, and I need this, that, and the other can feel just too difficult, just too difficult to do that. So, yeah.
And actually, in the webinar that we just ran earlier, one of the people on it said, you know, it's like waiting, always looking over my shoulder, waiting for that kind of like tap on it to say, oh, you've got that wrong, or you've made that mistake, or this hasn't gone well. And I think, you know, this is the hidden side of neurodiversity that you don't see. Maybe it takes a person who's dyslexic 20 minutes longer to write an email, but it's actually how that impacts their self-esteem that is the hidden side. And I think, you know, what we'd like to say is just imagine if on your way to work this morning, you know, when you left the house, you've had a massive argument with your flatmate or your partner or your child, you know, and, you know, you're replaying that argument, aren't you? You're kind of like, oh, I can't believe they've said this and I said this. You know, going into work, it's a bit hard to focus, isn't it? Because you're in a bit of emotional turmoil.
Exactly.
You know, or imagine that you've had a car accident on the way to work, you know, and you're a bit stressed and worried about it. Are your insurance going to pay out? And whose fault was it? So those external things have created a lot of internal turmoil. So are you able to work effectively? Are you able to concentrate? It's really hard, isn't it? And what we wanted to say is that's what's going on day after day for people who are neurodiverse. That's the hidden impact that you don't necessarily see.
Absolutely. That inner emotional turmoil is going on all the time inside neurodiverse people. And so if you can just tap into what that actually feels like, can you imagine then having to go into work feeling like that every day? And then not just once, it's not just one thing that happens in the morning, it's throughout the whole day, feeling like that throughout the whole day. Can you then operate as effectively? Can you, you know, take criticism? Can you, you know, accept feedback? You know, all of these things that people that are neurodiverse really struggle with.
You know. And I think it really is this hidden impact that we're talking about, you know. We're trying to put a picture up, but it's not working. So we'll just keep talking.
Here we go. There we go. I found the right button.
So what I wanted to share with you was an interesting event that happened. And I think this really highlights that hidden side of neurodiversity. So when something goes wrong or something doesn't happen, I immediately assume that I've made a mistake, that it's something that I have done wrong. Now, on a simple level, this actually came to light when I posted something to Becky's brother in the UK, and he'd said that the parcel hadn't arrived, and Becky told me that. And the first thing I thought of was, oh, I got the address wrong. I must have put the wrong address on it. Oh, and what was your take on that?
Well, but actually because you'd ordered something from a shop to be delivered, hadn't you? You'd ordered something from a shop to be delivered to my brother, and it hadn't turned up. And so you immediately assumed that you'd given the shop the wrong address or the wrong name or the wrong house number or whatever.
Or the wrong postcode, because they're quite long in the UK,
absolutely.
aren't they?
And my first thought was, oh, the store have made a mistake. They obviously haven't sent it, or it's got lost in the post. It never would in a million years have been my first thought to think that Vanessa was wrong, or if it had been me doing it, that I was wrong. I would always think, first of all, that somebody else had made the mistake, and then it might take a while for me to accept that maybe it was my mistake. Maybe that's a personality thing. I don't know.
Well, even if it's a little bit of a personality thing, what we wanted to share with you is my automatic ingrained self-belief, because I've had in my neurodiversity for so long, is that I made the mistake. It's something I've done wrong.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely. And what I meant personality wasn't for me not assuming that people are wrong, not you assuming that you're wrong. I mean, for me, you know, it might take me a while to think that I'm the one that's made the mistake, but that's because I'm used to being right. I mean, I'm used to getting things right. I'm used to knowing stuff, you know. I'm neurotypical, and for me, learning is easy, absorbing information is easy, being accurate is easy. And so I would always assume that it was somebody else that was making the mistake, not me. Whereas it's the reverse for you, I think.
And this is one of those hidden sides, you know. It doesn't necessarily matter what you're seeing on the outside. or what that person's label may be. It's actually what's going on internally for them. And that hidden impact really can't be underestimated. Now, those hidden behaviors, those hidden aspects usually drive some behaviors. Perfectionism, yeah? You're so worried about making a mistake, you'll work for hours and make sure that everything's perfect, you know? Working really, really, really hard. The belief is I have to work super hard to get a piece of work right, you know? Or I've got to be that really outgoing, confident person. So these do drive some behaviors, but those behaviors aren't always very helpful. In fact, it's exhausting being a perfectionist.
Yes, it is, absolutely. But some of those behaviors aren't damaging, are they? But there are some other behaviors that show up that can be much more damaging for the neurodiverse people. Things like constantly apologizing. So we were talking earlier about Vanessa used to feel like she had to apologize for coming into a room. Sorry, as soon as you walk in the room. That's not great.
Usually because I was late. But anyway.
Avoidance, avoiding things, you know, going out of your way to avoid doing things or experiencing things or being around people. Being reserved at work, holding yourself back. So you might sort of not speak up in a meeting. You might have amazing ideas or amazing things that you want to say, but you just don't want to actually articulate them in front of other people. That can be really, really difficult. And then the self-depreciating humor.
Yeah.
You know, this is a big one, isn't it? You know, and I think you could talk about that because that's something that you've experienced quite a lot.
Yeah. And, you know, I would often use self-depreciating humor. So I would often make myself the butt of a joke or, you know, kind of, you know, play down my own abilities. Because then when the inevitable mistake came or I got something wrong, then I could brush it off and say, oh, see, I told you I was the flaky one, or see, I told you I was no good at that.
Yeah.
But really, when you listen to that language, that's a really limiting self-belief that's driving that.
And I remember really well, I'm just going to go slightly off piste here, a little story that you don't know is coming.
I don't know what she's going to tell you.
Well, we used to live together in the Middle East, in Oman. And I remember one time when you arrived at school and you had an accident in your car and you'd driven into, I think it was a minister or someone like that, you know, someone quite important. So, you know, in Oman, you don't really do that kind of thing. You're a little bit careful about how you behave. And I remember vividly you saying repeatedly, only I could do that. Only I could be the one that would drive into a minister. People have accidents all the time, but it would be only with me would drive into a minister. And I remember thinking, why? Why only you? And that's that same thing, isn't it? It's like, you know, I'm going to say it about myself first before anybody else says it about me. And that's, you know, not a great place to be.
No, it isn't. It isn't, you know. And I think the other hidden side that you don't see from that is the exhaustion. And actually it's exhausting. It really is exhausting. The constant fear and worry of, you know, it's like having imposter syndrome, but like imposter syndrome magnified, you know. And I think we spoke to one of our clients about imposter syndrome. And I think what's interesting for me, everybody can experience imposter syndrome, but for more neurotypical people, they'll experience it and then they'll think, oh, okay, but I can just learn this. I'll learn those skills. I'll gain that knowledge.
Certainly that's what I think.
Yeah, exactly. When you're neurodiverse, though, that learning bit can be hard. And you actually think you've got imposter syndrome with everything you do because you don't learn your talents, you know?
Absolutely.
And, you know, when clients come to us, they're exhausted. They're overwhelmed and exhausted, but trying to hide that from everybody, aren't they?
And feeling like you don't fit in anywhere, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, you just can't get that true connection. You always feel like you're slightly separate from other people and that you're just not really where you should be at in the right way. And that sounds a bit funny, doesn't it? But it's just like that separation from people because you're constantly hiding. You're constantly keeping yourself inside rather than outside. You're too scared to let people see who you really are. So you put on a mask and pretend to be somebody else. You know, we all talk about masking, don't we? I mean, we all know neurodiverse people mask. We don't know how exhausting that is and what hard work that actually is. It's enormous.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because masking, I think people tend to think of masking as being, okay, I'll mask to fit into a social situation. Yeah. It's actually much bigger than that. We're talking about masking in that hiding the fact that you're not keeping up, hiding the fact that you're confused. This is all masking as well. It isn't just about masking behaviors to fit into a social group. And I think that's something that we really, if I could give you a little glimpse into the chaos of my internal life as it used to be, not as it is now, it was just exhausting. I was constantly exhausted, and I
Absolutely.
think
and not
it is one of
surprising.
the hidden things that people don't see.
Absolutely, definitely. And it really is tiring, when you're constantly worried about someone finding you out, or that you can't ask how to use the photocopier for the 30th time. There's so many different ways that you have to hide who you really are, not just in work, in life, in all aspects of life. And it is really, really tiring.
Yeah. And I think, we work with clients in our group program, and we work with clients one-to-one. And I think, listening to their struggles and using my own struggles as a basis, we created a program called Resilient Minds. Now, we've been to a couple of events lately where resilience is
it's been a dirty word.
A bit of a negative word. So I guess what we're saying is, if you want to learn how to be confident and neurodiverse, you could call it that, because we really truly believe that the easiest way to show up and operate in the world is to actually be able to accept your neurodiversity. And once you really understand it, you can actually stop hiding it.
Absolutely. Stop that shame, stop that exhaustion from constantly feeling overwhelmed and like you're not fitting in. It doesn't have to feel like that. Once you really understand and accept your neurodiversity, it changes everything. And we see it all the time in the clients that we work with. And we were seeing that a lot in our one-to-one clients that we work with, but we wanted to take that out to a wider audience, which is why we created our group program. So it's just a 6-week program which takes you through an amazing process of awareness. We start with awareness, then we move on to acceptance, how you can accept your difference and how you can then utilize it. So the final part is using that difference to create the future and the life and the experience that you want, so that you can thrive in life rather than just feeling like you're just managing, just surviving. So it really is a fantastic program, and it really does make a huge difference. We really dive into those negative beliefs, those negative core beliefs that most neurodiverse people have. Now, we do experience some neurodiverse people who are very happy to talk about their neurodiversity, but on the whole, that's not the case.
And also, I would say even then, there'll usually be some areas in their life where they really are carrying that negative self-belief. And as I was saying, it's just, I constantly believed I would get things wrong, constantly. In fact, I can remember I organised a friend to come and pick me up from a ferry here in Auckland, and I gave them completely the wrong time. And so then when I was messaging and saying, oh, can you come and pick me up? They were like, well, you said it was in half an hour. And I was like, oh, no, I've got the time wrong. And they were like, well, how could you do that? How can you get the time wrong? And see, it's that instant, oh, yeah, gosh, there's something wrong with me. And it's that people don't see with neurodiversity, and it's the impact of that on your life. Now that I'm aware of my neurodiversity, I've accepted it, I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses, it means I can actually participate more in work and in life. I'm not constantly fearing or feeling stressed and overwhelmed, because who wants to feel stressed and overwhelmed all the time, right?
Nobody. We've all got enough stress in our lives, haven't we, really? Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it really is an amazing program that we put together, and it is based from our training and our knowledge around neurodiversity and working with our one-to-one clients, and then just putting it into more of a group setting so that we can help more people. The group size is never more than about 8 to 10 people maximum. So it really is a small group, and you get coaching sessions with us as well. So it's really, we really dive deeply in. And the difference in this program is that it works from the inside out. We're not trying to fix the outside. We're not trying to make you more neurotypical. We're trying to help you understand your differences and your challenges so that you can then work with them, rather than trying to change yourself to fit in with the world. You don't have to change yourself to fit in with the world. You just have to understand yourself so that you know how you operate, so that you can maximize your natural talents. And the other thing as well, I'm sorry, I'm taken over now, but the other thing that I sort of really want to say is that as a neurodiverse person, often finding the language to explain what is going on to the people around you is hard. You know, if you don't truly really understand what's going on yourself, how can you explain it to other people? So this program gives you the language and the knowledge to be able to share with other people. And we recently worked with an amazing guy who, you know, was really struggling in life and didn't know what direction he wanted to go. And he was also struggling in his relationship as well. You know, he was finding it very hard to talk to his partner about anything that was going on. And we actually got an email after we finished the program with him from his partner saying, "Thank you so much. I now have understanding of what's going on for him, as well as him having understanding of what's going on for him. And we have the language to be able to talk about it. So I can talk in his language now." And that was just amazing to hear, that not only has he benefited from it, his partner has benefited from it. And they both will be able to go on and have a better relationship together because of having the skills, the knowledge and the language to be able to understand neurodiversity.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, we started this talking about the hidden side of neurodiversity. And this is really what we wanted to share, is it's that internal stress. It's the lack of internal self-belief. It's the lack of being able to trust what you think and feel. And, you know, we truly believe, actually, if you're in a workplace and you're on a neuro-inclusion journey, then we actually believe it needs to be a partnership. So it needs to be a partnership between you, you know, raising that awareness within the workspace, but also supporting your employees to do their own internal work, because that's actually makes the biggest impact. You know, yes, you can change things around you, but actually removing that stress and emotional overwhelm and chaos from inside yourself is actually one of the most powerful ways that you can really stop having to hide your neurodiversity, because it really is tiring. And, you know, I know, because I used to do it all the time.
Absolutely. And, you know, we would love for neurodiverse people in the workplace as well to have the language to be able to explain to people what's going on for them. Because I think, you know, as I think we touched on yesterday, did we? You're not taught in school how to understand your neurodiversity. You're just taught that you're not good enough, or that you're not the same as everybody else. And, you know, that you're probably never going to be as successful as everyone else because you're different. But actually the difference can be a positive thing once you understand it and once you know how to work with it rather than against it. So just put a little QR code there up on the screen. Hopefully you can see it. And give it a little scan. It'll take you to the page that tells you all about the Resilient Minds program. If you're an organization and you want to offer this to more people than just one person, we'd love that. We'd love to help as many people as possible. Just get in touch. Just email us at hello@remarkableminds.co.nz and we can chat about how we can provide this to your people more easily. We'd love to do that.
And the last thing to say is, actually, if you sign up before the end of March, there is actually a special price because it's Neurodiversity Celebration Week, because that's what this course will do. One of the things is it will increase your confidence, but every single person that's been through it always comes out being really proud to be neurodiverse, and really open about it. They're not hiding anymore.
And that makes it so much easier, doesn't it? If you can be open about it instead of hiding yourself all the time and actually talk about what's going on, so much easier for everybody to manage instead of living in that place of fear. So so check it out, have a look. We'd love to help as many people as possible understand their neurodiversity. And thanks for joining us today. And we'll see you again tomorrow, same time. What are we talking about tomorrow?
So tomorrow we're talking about, does it really matter if you are neurodiverse? And at at work.
At work.
So we're going to talk about, does it really matter if you're neurodiverse, but with that work lens on.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks everyone for coming today. Have a lovely rest of your day. It's beautiful, sunny where we are. Hope it is where you are too.
Oh, thank you, Nadine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nadine.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Bye.